I really do want to talk about my channel and talk to all of you, all of my subscribers. I mean, after all, this is a subscriber special. However, I know most of you are just here for the list, so like if you want, subscribe if you can, and without further ado, here we go. I'll be talking to you about everything else at the end. Compared to many other magic mods, Electroblob's Wizardry is, well, it's quite simple. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's a big part about why it's made it into this top 10 list. Electroblob's Wizardry is almost fully exploration based. You don't need a whole full base setup, you don't need to build any structures to do anything. The fact is, you just explore and you find the structures, or find dungeons or anything. That's how you'll get spell books to put on the wands, which you also can find in these places, to basically get all sorts of spells. How it works is you're going to want to get an arcane workbench, which can either be crafted, or it can be found in any wizard's tower, and then you're going to want to get a wand. You will be able to add wand upgrades to these, but originally, each wand can hold up to 5 spells. There's just a lot of spells in here, and that's what makes this mod so great. The fact is, there's just so many spells. Like, you can just grab any set of spells, and they'll all be unique. There's Earthquake, which causes an earthquake and a tremor around you. Forest of Thorns creates thorns that damage enemies that walk into it, but you can walk through just fine, which is nice. Nice little detail. Then, I go back into Game of Creative, we have Possession. This will only work if you have an enemy, but if you do, you can use Possession on it, and now, you become it. This actually works on passive mobs as well, unsurprisingly, but it's a pretty cool idea, and then you just shift to get out of it. We also got Forest, just from second over, got Forest Curse, which freezes things in place so they can't move. It does a tiny bit of damage. But there's just so many spells in here, and they're just so fun that whenever I play with this mod, I end up with a completely different array of spells than I had the previous time I played it. You just never know what you're going to get, and it's just so nice to just have that much variety in the magic mod. Mystical Aggriculture may not have any grandiose spells or incantations or rituals. There's no wands, none of that. But it is a magic mod, in my opinion, to at least classify this one. And it's a great one for getting resources, and is, in my opinion, a vital part of a magic-based mod pack, since it almost feels like a magical way to gather the resources without needing to resort to tech mods. So what this mod adds, well, at least the main thing that this adds, is essentially seeds of all kinds. If I open JEI here, you can see that there's seeds for galore, and there's water seeds, there's gold seeds, there's nether quartz seeds. But it's compatible with a lot of other mods, so just from a few of the other mods I have around here, there's Abyssal Night seeds, Iridium, so you get the stuff from Abyssalcraft, and there's Mana Steel, and Mystical Flower from Botania. Stuff from all over. The seeds kind of work with everything. The idea is that you can get almost every resource by growing it. You can grow the essence, so right here these seeds are Inferium, and that's the first of the essences. So you can grow the essences, and you'll eventually get to a point where you're growing diamonds and growing rare ores from other mods. and it's really helpful. It's a great way to get resources. The other thing this adds is it adds like gear and stuff. The most important of this is Supremium, which can be obtained near the end game. I mean, it's debatably it's end game for Mystical Agriculture. It's debatably end game for everything as a whole, and it makes it quite easy to do things like kill the Ender Dragon, because it looks at the sword's doing 21 damage on its own, but you can get like a strength charm on it, and it'll get a bonus damage because you have strength by holding it. The armor itself is not only superior to Diamond, it grants you flight. So as you can see, it's pretty strong stuff. See, this is faster than Creative Flight. I recommend including this mod in a Magic mod pack where, as I've said, you kind of feel it's more thematic to get resources this way instead of using tech mods, and you don't want to have to go through all the trouble of having to go out and get them every time. Well, I wouldn't go so far as to call Astral Sorcery a new mod. It's newer than just about every other mod on this list. Potentially all of them. I don't know the exact dates. The thing about Astral Sorcery is that it's a mod based entirely off using magic from the stars. It actually changes the sky a little bit, so if you look really closely, you can pick out constellations and see them. And once you get a looking glass, you can see a lot closer and look for individual constellations. There, like there, as you can see there, that's one of the constellations. So, I don't know the exact pattern off the top of my head, but what you'd ordinarily do, what you'd be able to do, is you'd be able to trace the constellation in the right pattern, and then it would always stay highlighted in the sky for you to be able to unlock it. The problem here, as with a lot of parts of this, is that Astral Sorcery becomes difficult to show, because you kind of have to go through the mod to learn how to do like anything in it. Thankfully, it has a really good guide, and when I've played it, I was never really confused, just kind of reading it step by step. It kind of just branches around and just shows you everything you can do and unlocks new branches as you go. There is later on a whole perk tree related to the constellations that grants you a ton of new powers, and I really do like the starlight look on everything. As you can see right now, I have like 3 miniature stars trailing after me. And a lot of the stuff, like the sword, has like a starlight power. So when I kill a mob, it unleashes like a massive shockwave sometimes. That is extremely powerful. But yeah, it's just, Astral Sorcery I've heard described as just it's very aesthetically pleasing. You can get liquid starlight using this thing, and over time, just by being out under the stars, and it's better higher up, but being out under the stars, what is this called again? Something with a light well will collect starlight for you, and you can get a bucket of it, which is used in some recipes, or you can place down, and will give night vision to anyone walking in it. And I guess the thing about Astral Sorcery that draws me in is, even though there isn't as much straight up magic, like less spell, there's not much of a spell system. There's some cool items, some cool weapons you can get that are definitely magically themed. There's some really cool structures you can build. A lot of it's based on building structures. Like you can do like stargates that travel you, but everything just looks so cool. Like you can just see the water like almost swimming within the starlight. And then once you get rid of the starlight, you can still see like the faint residue left behind. It's a very aesthetically pleasing mod. Abyssalcraft, for the most part, is a bit different from the other mods on this list, because it does add a little bit of a spell system, but it's pretty minor. There are a few spells that you craft with spell scrolls, and they'll have various effects, like this one will mine out an area, replacing it with lava. So it's good for making tunnels and stuff, but aside from a few gimmick spells, it's more meant to be an adventure of sorts. It adds in a bunch of new dimensions, 3 to be exact. Wait, nope, that's incorrect. That's 4 new dimensions. 3 are part of the main story, though. There's sort of a story to the whole thing. There's all these dimensions, which are almost like the layers of hell, and you can kind of keep going through it. Not exactly layer of hell. For those of you who know Lovecraftian horror, then this model will make a lot more sense to you, because it's based entirely off that, based entirely off Lovecraftian horror with Cthulhu and all of those old gods or whatever. Yeah, it's a great story. The bosses are a lot of fun, and they're pretty challenging, but they're a lot of fun. And my favorite one is named Jizahar. And this boss is actually really unique because he has a lot of unique dialogue. If I summon him, he'll just mock you for being creative, saying that he could simply switch your game with a sword to you right now. Actually, if you start attacking him in creative, he will end up killing you. Yeah, it's definitely a fun mod. It has a little bit of horror themed along with magic, as well as like an adventurer and a bunch of relics and kind of delving deeper into dark magic. It's definitely one I really enjoy. I have a tutorial on it because it's confused a lot of people before, since the documentation on it isn't the best. There's a guidebook, but it leaves out a lot because it wants you to try to figure out how to do things, but sometimes it's just nearly impossible to do so. Yeah, there's a bunch of dimensions. Each has their own new structures, new enemies, and it gets progressively harder the deeper you go. This mod somehow strikes a delicate balance with like little features like mobs having a maximum amount of damage being done per hit, where no matter what mods you have, it almost always still ends up being challenging. But even with just the Abyssalcraft mod, you still have all the resources available to be able to beat every boss. Project E is not at all what I'd call a balanced mod. It's way too good for getting resources, and has stuff like you can duplicate any item as long as you have the stuff for it, and it's just too easy to be able to do to get tons of everything. The main thing I like it for is this one item here, the transmutation table. So how it works is if you throw things in, it stores it as EMC, and you can use that amount of EMC to take out anything of that value. So, like, dirt has an EMC of 1, but diamonds has 8,192. So for 8,192 dirt, you could pull out a diamond. It becomes overpowered because you can essentially store everything as EMC in this tiny little transmutation table. And once these things come into play, you're able to generate EMC at an extremely fast rate. So you're just generating just tons of diamonds, like, every second. And those diamonds can be any resource, it's not just diamonds. So it kind of completely annihilates game balance right from the get-go. There's also the fact that the armor, one of the armors you get called gem armor, gives 100% immunity to physical damage, as well as some other really nice effects, really high speed, step assist. It's weak to explosions, but aside from that, it's still extremely strong, has jetpack style flight. So yeah, this mod is not at all balanced, but it's definitely a well-known one. Having access to the transmutation table is just so fun for swapping in resources of all types. If I just grab a bunch of random stuff out of nowhere, ores usually don't work, but most stuff does. You guys see how you can just unlock everything in the game and basically have a near unlimited supply of it eventually. It would definitely be a lot of fun. It's great for getting infinite decoration blocks and stuff. It's a wonderful mod at times, and it has like stuff like, there's items like rending gales and stuff. This thing, which will shoot, where if you put it on a pedestal like these, it'll shoot lightning at any mobs that come nearby. I really have a love-hate relation to this mod. I can't get over how overpowered it is, and it kind of breaks everything. But it's just it's so nice because of the fact that it saves you from having to delve into tech mods. It saves you from kind of all the trouble of trying to find all these resources. It's a good mod for someone who wants to use magic in an obscene amount of resources and be able to play all around with that and progress in magic as fast as they possibly can. I wouldn't recommend it for a serious mod pack that you want to play for a long time, maybe. Or maybe I would, depends. But I definitely recommend trying it out. It has a ton of downloads because most people find it a ton of fun. PSI is a great mod that really has the potential to reward people with more mathematical minds. How it works is simple on a surface level, but extremely complex once you get into it. All you need is to make your CAD, the CAD, the Casting Assistance Device, to get a spell programmer, and one of these CAD assemblers. But making the spells themselves, that's right, you have to make your own spells, is pretty complex. How it works is it adds in a sort of spell programming, where you have a grid, and you can pick elements to add. Now, I've made a few working spells. Like here, I have one called Multi-Smite. The idea of it is you take a loot cap, or circle bowl, I believe it is, and put that in. You can see now I can select between my spells easily. There's some lightning for you. The thing is, though, to make this, you have to have a lot of features. So here I have a bunch of stuff. Some of these spells you can just get online, you don't actually have to, but how this works is it selects the focal point, so where your gun is focusing, and uses that to create a circle, basically, that continues to use Smite on all nearby living entities, and also just random entities, too. So it hits everything. There are more complex spells you can make, like spells, this spell here, the idea is that it turns an entity invisible and deals a bunch of damage, so you kind of erase them from existence, sort of. And this one here, you can see how really complex they get, is the one that made that shield around me in the intro. So the idea is, I'm not the best with this mod. In fact, compared to some people and some crazy spells I've seen, I'm pretty bad comparatively. But I can make a few spells on my own sometimes, and these things, like this one, I did not make this one, but some of them can get even more crazy than this. They can get insane. And it's really cool, because there's different types of bullets too. Like Loot Cast will proceed to cast the spell on repeat until you run out of psionic energy, which is sort of the mana source. Whereas the circle one I used here for the lightning, it creates a circle that continues to cast the spell from that point. The fact is, the mod, as I said before, it's simple on surface level. There's a lot of hidden depth to it. Blood Magic is my classic go-to for like an evil style magic mod, which makes sense because all the magic basically uses blood. There's no mana, you simply cast everything using blood. And you can see here looking at things that there's an amount of blood in this altar that I can put into a blood orb, which will slowly suck up into the orb, so that's how kind of you get magic for yourself. Some of the magic is related to demonic will, which is like the sentient sword, which will grow in power the more will I have on me. Here it has 10 attack damage, but it can get even higher if you have enough will. There's the sigils, which each will use blood in your blood network. Here I have 0, unfortunately, it says. But sigils will eventually you'll be able to get blood in your blood network, and you can use magic, because I've been creative, I can still use it. So the air sigil will allow you a form of flight where, when you right click it, it'll propel you in that direction. This allows you to fly, albeit dangerously. The sigil of the Phantom Bridge will create a bridge beneath you for you to walk on. The lava sigil will create lava. The sigil of holding allows you to hold all your sigils. And there's a lot more, whereas there's add-ons for Blood Magic that add even more sigils and more crazy stuff. I've covered a bit of the basics here, but the 1.7.10 version of Blood Magic is notable because it had way more content. The thing is, though, 1.12.2 is much more streamlined, things look a lot nicer in my opinion, and I think it is just better to play this mod 1.12.2 just for all of Minecraft being updated. But if you're ever playing 1.7.10 mod pack, especially a magic based one, definitely give Blood Magic a try. Thaumcraft is sort of a staple of Magic mods, and it was actually the first Magic mod I've ever played. It was the first one I learned about. It's been around for a really long time, and although the 1.12.2 version is still in a beta, it's fully playable. Most mods for Magic will focus on certain areas, like having a really good spellcasting system or something, or they'll branch out and have like a little bit of everything, like a little bit of alchemy or whatever. Thaumcraft has a lot of everything. It's a massive mod, and it adds all these ways to do magic. There's a whole spell crafting system, and spell casting unless you feel like Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet. There's alchemy, where you can throw things in to make new things. There's like advanced crafting, there's infusion. This book should say enough, because remember, this is for a beta version, and we still have pages galore. This is just the fundamentals of this mod, supposedly. And we got this whole map of like a skill tree of research. And you go on into Oromancy, which is the spell casting, alchemy, which is alchemy and stuff from the Crucible, turning things to other things, artifice, which is making relics, arcane infusion, which can also be used to make relics, but and like items by infusing them with magic. You can create your own golems that can do all sorts of things. There's supposed to be like even a bit of, or as I said, a lot of dark magic and stuff through the Eldritch tab and stuff. It's really a massive mod, and well, I definitely don't regret giving it the 3rd spot. If anything, I'd regret giving this mod not 1st or 2nd. These top 3 are all extremely close, as it is. I could have put these top 3 in any order, but I kind of just did it based on personal preference and the mods that I personally like a bit more. My one qualm with Thaumcraft is that there can be just a bit too much sometimes. Like, there's so much you can do, sometimes it can be kind of difficult to get all of it. I mean, I'm not saying these other Magic mods aren't big, I'm just saying Thaumcraft, it's... Yeah, as I said, there's just so much you can do. And a lot of times that's a good thing. But when I try to play a pack with a lot of mods, a mod pack with a lot of mods, that becomes something that just becomes not worth working on. Still, I gave it the number 3 spot, and it definitely deserves that spot. At least that spot. Very strong mod. When it comes to Magic mods, Botania is the OG. Of all the big Magic mods out there, Botania was the first to come out. There's good decoration blocks. There's a lot of potential for automation with flowers that can chop down trees for you, make Enderman nearby teleport to it, all stuff like that would help a lot in farm. And then there's cool weaponry like the Star Collar, which rains down a tiny star. Or, my personal favorite, the Key of King's Law, which summons a ton of projectiles for you. You can see how it looks really spread out around you, and then fire off. If any of you have seen Fate Zero, or just the Fate franchise, and know of Gilgamesh, well, you'd have a good idea of what this weapon's based on. For those of you who don't, it's still really cool. The amount of decoration blocks is unreal. I mean, even for quartz alone, there's so many types of quartz, each with all the potential chisels and stuff. My favorites are Smoky Quartz, because it really contrasts regular quartz, and this Elven Quartz, which is the green. But the others look nice too. Whereas Blood Magic is my go-to mod for evil magic, Botania is my go-to mod for good magics. It's all light mana, mana itself comes from flowers, and like all the magic, a lot of later magic is like elven in nature and stuff. It kind of has that feel of like the good magic, the high magic. This mod definitely could have been the number 1 spot, but the one I put above it, I put for partly for personal preference, but I think the one above this in the number 1 spot does deserve that number 1 spot. Magicka 2 is only up to 1.10.2 in terms of versions. Despite that, I really couldn't put it anywhere other than first, because, man, do I love this mod. There's something about Ars Magica 2 that really lets you feel like the master of the arcane of sorts. Like, you start with level spells, but you increase your spells, and you can build and customize your own spells. But you increase your spells simply by casting spells. You'll level up and get more mana, and be able to create higher level spells. And everything about it just looks so smooth. They've got a magic book on how to do everything. There's so much stuff, like you can become a leader of other wizards, you can create all sorts of spells, do all sorts of things in and out of combat, but it's the purest essence of magical fantasy. It's kind of like that dream we've all had as a kid of, we want to be the wizard, we want to use magic, and the very fact is that you can do so much stuff. And if I take this out of the spell book, which looks pretty sick, you can see how you kind of get the spell in your hand, so it feels like you're firing a spell right from your hand. That's just so nice. Like, this spell here's I made with a wave of Starfall, which is a component. And as you can see, it creates that wave of cascading stars. Ars Magica 2 can get overpowered at later levels, but it's surprisingly balanced early on, and it still lets you feel like a true wizard. The armor itself works with magic, and everything's so great, and it just looks so nice. If I get some enemies out here to obliterate completely, see how fast the combination of Blizzard and this spell here is Blizzard and Firestorm. I call it Elemental Crash. You can see how fast it takes things down while freezing them in place. Or Starfall. Yeah. But you can have crazy spells once you get to higher levels. So this one, which you saw in the intro, basically, you can customize the spell however you want, but you can keep branching off. Like here, you can create a zone, which means that in a zone, a spell keeps happening, that fires off an area of effect, and in that area, you get Thunderstorm up to 3 times, and then, or you can even do more actually. You can do, I think, as many as you want, but it'll keep increasing the spell cost. And then you can unleash insane spells that at a certain point will lag your game, especially with this lightning one, but with most ones like Firestorm, it actually, I've experienced almost no lag. And I don't have that good a PC, like I'm not on a gaming PC, I'm just on a Mac laptop, so it's not like I'm using anything special. Here with this Thunderstorm, it probably will lag, but that's kind of to be expected with this much lightning, whereas your other magic usually isn't too bad. I just felt like this mod deserved the #1 spot, simply because I really don't know. Just the feel I get when I'm playing it. I kind of just love feeling like the guy, like the mage who can stand in the center and rain destruction in all directions. It is very difficult for me to describe it. As I said, it's kind of that dream we all have, especially as kids. Not all the spells are as over the top, especially early on. There are some simple spells like Beam Dig, which will shoot a beam that digs whatever it hits. So something like this will be really helpful for mining early on, and it's a good way to level up early on. So it really does make you feel like a mage, because you get to the point of entry where you can kind of do everything through magic one way or another. The aesthetic's great, the effects look awesome, and the fact that you're fighting from your hands or from a pretty cool looking spell book definitely helps. Thanks a ton for sticking around to the end. Now, this video was originally planned to be an 100 subscriber special, but I guess I didn't get it out fast enough. That one's on me. I hope you enjoyed the video and what it did have, and I hope it helped some of you out. I really do enjoy making all of these videos, so those of you who have already subscribed, and those who have yet to, come along for the ride. I promise, it'll be enjoyable for all of us. So sit back, hit the subscribe button if you don't trust YouTube's suggestion algorithm, and wait to see what'll come next. I'll do my best not to disappoint. How far this channel has come really does mean a lot to me, and I think it has a bright future for us to look forward to together.